Everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My disembodied voice is the voice of Bryant Francis, contributing editor at Gamasutra. And we are here today with something new, cool, and a little different. What's the second here? I'm joined today by two fine folks, Alex and Ben. Alex, can you say hi and introduce yourself?
I'd be happy to. Hi, Bryant. Hi, everybody. Hi, Ben. My name is Alex Wara. I'm an editor at Gamasutra.
And
Thanks for joining us.
Ben, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ben Laidlaw. I'm a technical artist. I worked at 343 for Halo 5 Guardians.
Sweet. And as you can see, that's what we're playing here today, Halo 5 Guardians. Now, you might be asking yourself, Bryant, why are we playing a game that came out last year in 2016, or 2017? Actually, it didn't even come out last year. It came out in 2015, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fall.
Yeah. Aside from the fact that Halo, Halo is still, it's a live game. It has multiplayer stuff. It has DLC. It's still a game being developed, and it is interesting to check out. The other reason we're playing it is that Ben here is going to be giving a talk at GDC. Ben, could you introduce that talk?
We'll actually be doing two. Primary one is geometry caching optimization. One of the things we did for Halo 5 that we haven't been able to present up until now is how we could push so much geometry, especially moving geometry, in Halo 5 in the engine, and we're going to present how we're going to do that stuff from architectural core stuff so that you can implement it in your own engine and from the authoring side. And then a second one is going to actually be at GDC at the boot camps. It'd be part of the Tech Art boot camp, building offline simulation pipeline, kind of a little further in depth on how we actually do simulation specifically. We do a couple different types of content on my specific team, but kind of how you can do it and author it yourself.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Eric Boo in chat who's glad we're on and that they're looking forward to watching this. So you've got a fan, Ben. You have one fan.
One fan.
Yeah. So just for quick background for our viewers, just for what we're looking at right now in game for Halo 5. So we're in a later mission in the game because what Ben was telling me before the show is that the next level after this one is where you'll see most of his team's work. So if you have any technical questions, feel free to ask any of them in the chat, and we'll do our best to convey them to Ben so he can answer them.
I have a technical question. Can I ask this a question?
Shoot. Go for it.
Ben, tell me, what is geometry caching?
So let's see, what's the best way? So in when you do motion capture, people are kind of familiar with that nowadays. You go into a studio, you put all the balls on you, and you capture a lot of motion and data. But in order to put that into a game, you can't really put that in live, so it's not real-time physics. You actually bake that down and process that. So what we do for geometry caching is like that, but for large transforms. So if I wanted to, say, blow up a whole city, I can glue that, put it into the game, and then we can crank over 1 million transforms at 60 FPS. So usually people are limited to maybe about 100 or 1,000 objects moving on screen. We can actually get up to over 1 million if we really want to push the envelope.
Is this new tech that's unique to Halo 5?
This would be new tech and unique to Halo 5. It is a derivative of Rise of Rome. They did a similar version of this tech maybe 2014 for when Rise of Rome came out. We made our own version of it, kind of adapted it. Gears of War 4, or the latest Gears of War, they actually borrowed our tech too, because they're a sister studio, so they actually borrowed some of our technology and then implemented it in their own engine.
Were you involved with sort of putting it together and figuring out how to get it to work, or did you just sort of implement it?
It was kind of a revolving thing. So when I first came onto the team, I was kind of more of just a content artist, but having a really in-depth knowledge of simulations and technology, I ended up building up a little bit of the pipeline, especially from the authoring side, and being able to work directly with the engineers. Zabir Hoke, he'll be presenting with me at GDC on the geometry caching talk, and he'll be able to go a little bit more into the engine side. So actually the C# code and some of the HLSL code that we adapted and modified to do it. I have to thank Zabir a lot for the work he did with it.
Yeah. Real quick, Nicholas Wagner in the chat wants to know if you all use Scaleform these days, aka using Flash to author stuff.
We didn't. Mostly the authoring side we did was on Houdini.
Mhm.
We did a lot of Houdini based from Side Effect Software.
Gotcha. So the answer is just a straight no.
Straight no.
Yeah.
But it really depends. The system that we did is based on Alembic, so you could actually use any type of authoring package to do it. We were just a couple of Houdini artists, so we focused on that.
Mhm.
The way we did it is a universal system. We originally made it so you could do it in Maya and Max, but we just started working in Houdini and kind of focused in that route.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want to I don't want to dig too much into the meat of the talk itself that you're planning to give at GDC this year because I don't want to steal your thunder.
I know
What I
it
do
is.
want to know is as a game developer, like what led you to pitch and put together this talk? Like, why do you think this sort of stuff is valuable for fellow developers to be studying?
You know, it's actually funny because I went to GDC last year. I kind of thought somebody actually else was going to steal our thunder already. And so I was like, oh, no reason to talk about it. Somebody else is already doing it. And then the more and more I research it, we were actually one of the few people that actually went down this road. And the great thing about like GDC in general is you share all this information, and we have this backlog of information that nobody else really kind of knows how to do at this point in time. So we wanted to share it, just kind of get the word out there.
Is this your first time speaking at GDC?
This will be my first time speaking at GDC, so
you
that should
nerv-
be interesting.
Do you have any regimens you're going to go through? Any tips? How much time have you spent preparing your slides? I always want to know that.
Oh man. So since I had to do 2 slide decks, each slide, like you have to, they're both 60-minute talks. So minimum, you gotta kind of do a slide a minute. People have short attention spans, but this isn't like a Microsoft like boardroom presentation. This is when they have to fill it with visuals, informations, and facts and stuff like that. And you kind of have to make it so that anybody from, say, somebody that just plays the game of Halo to a hardcore engineer can understand it. So to say a lot is kind of an understatement. I think it was a minimum 60 pages for a page per minute, so 60 over 120 different slides, the 2 different presentations, over 120 pages worth of information, and a lot of visual graphics because some of the stuff is really technical, and we have to discern it down into something that's visual so people can understand it and kind of see it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm sure most of the people at your talk will be well versed in the stuff you're talking about, but not all of them will. I wonder, when you're trying to talk about optimizing game development through geometry caching, like what kind of example do you give about what this technology allowed you to do in this game? Like, if you had to tell a layman, like, look, here's Halo 5, here's what I worked on, here's how we did this, and this is what we were able to do that we couldn't do otherwise. Like, how would you? Like, is there a specific example that we're going to see in the relatively near future, or in the game anywhere that you could point to?
Coming up on it close. We get through one more area, and we'll be there.
I'm going as fast as I can.
No worries, no worries. Once you get there, it also will feel really short. For us, it took like a couple weeks to work on, but for you, you're gonna like fly through it and you're gonna be like, what happened? But pretty much like, I don't know. People think of real-time physics as a pretty direct translation. If you have a can, you throw a can at the ground, it bounces. If the computer or like the Xbox has to solve for that, there's a amount of calculation time that you have to take into. But just like character animation, you already know what the character is going to do when you press the trigger. So instead of having to calculate that physics, it just does that motion. So for us, we're just making that animation on that can, but we optimized it so much that we could just pump out millions of cans and play them real time. Whereas before we could only do maybe like 100 objects bouncing around.
Real quick, how does it, like, I mean, you just said you have a situation where as a game animator, you're spending a lot of time on something that is only going to happen for 2 seconds. How do you like, I don't know, that seems like a thing where you have to mentally get used to the idea that like you're going to put all this time and effort in, get credit, get paid, like have a great time with your team, and then boot it up with the game, and you're like, ah, right, no one's gonna see it, like, get it.
Oh man, yeah. I guess since I've worked in the film industry and the commercial industry, I'm used to people seeing my work maybe for like 30 seconds at max for a commercial, but sometimes it's only like 5 frames or 5 seconds maybe in a film.
Yeah.
And then all that work is gone. Other times I've actually worked for 6 months over a year and had all that work cut.
Yeah.
Just people do edits, revisions, and it's just the fact of life, and it's a business, and you're trying to make the best product possible. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's highs, sometimes there's low. Other things just get plain old cut.
Yeah.
You just try not to get too closely personally attached to the work.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you wind up in games coming from a background in film? I know you have a double bachelor in film and animation. Like, how did that wind up leading you to game development?
I guess in one sense, I'm not a traditional game designer, so I don't like do level design in that traditional sense.
Yeah.
So it'd be like a script writer for a film. Like I don't do the architecting of that type of thing, and I'm not a traditional programmer. So when you remove those two aspects, the rest part of the game is building the content for that game and building the pipelines and the authoring for that. And that's the exact same fundamental things that they do in film and commercials, and advertising and stuff like that. You're taking a polygon and you're translating it, morphing it, destroying it, shading it, putting UVs and stuff on there. Then you're putting it through a render process, whether it's a real-time engine, which kind of dices it up and does the compositing in real time, or you pass it off to a compositor and a lighter and an artist after that.
Was that explosion I just saw you?
When you see it, it'll see. It's in here. It's kind of a little pause cutscene, and all the stuff will start running down. It was part of the E3 trailer.
Oh, got it.
So-
I'm trying to find. There was just a. Oh no, I think that explosion was actually. Oh nope, that's what I wanted. Sorry.
Come on, Brian. I thought you were good at Halo. Let's go.
I am good at Halo. Don't question me. The art and business of playing Halo.
it's
Alright.
hard.
So actually, the funny thing about the campaign stuff for our work in particular wasn't used too heavily in campaign because we were actually developing the technology as it was going. Actually, in the DLC stuff, when you go to multiplayer, there's in Molten in particular and a bunch of the other later Warzone levels, we actually have our assets everywhere. As we understood the technology and we developed it further, we were able to implement it across the game in wider areas.
Yeah.
So like some effects that are like usually do real-time calculation, like a leaf blowing in the wind, you don't really need to calculate it that in real time. So we were able to put thousands of leaves blowing around in a level.
Nicholas wants to know again, what was your favorite thing to work on? Whoop, there we go.
No pressure.
Explosion. Yeah.
Explosions, destructions. Yeah, I'll give a shout out to the FX team at least first. They did a lot of this work too. We kind of worked with them on and off in different things. So share a little bit of love to that. So I don't want to take credit for their work, so I want to give that out. But as far as what I enjoyed most, I actually kind of like the problem solving, like just working with 3D, working with the people in general. I guess I don't have a particular love for one thing or another. You kind of get used to having your babies killed. So you don't really kind of grow too heartily attached to one or two things. The Molten mission, that's a MP map, that one I actually kind of enjoyed a bit because we were trying to do something that nobody else has done. When we took our geometry cache and we started doing soft transforms and making the lava actually not doing runtime displacement or anything like that, but actually moving with over like 100,000 transforms at runtime when you're running around playing a 4v4 match, and then you're staring at this like lava bubbling. So I guess that was the closest one.
Well, how come? I mean, like, why do you think it's so exciting to make lava that bubbles and transforms differently, or more effectively, or more efficiently?
It was a challenge. If you actually go through most of Halo, the way you do it, or we did it traditionally, was a scrolling texture. Each engines and each games have like different effects. So if you usually have a game that's high on lava, you'll spend a lot of time and technology on that. But Halo's never really had like hardcore lava that's and on the like Xbox, I should say on Xbox One, that had a lot of scrolling textures and stuff like that. So we were able to do a lot of really fancy technology on top of that, just on the side, and it came together really easily.
I confess,
one or
I've
two
never,
hiccups. Yeah.
I've never thought of games in terms of their lava quotient, like high on lava, low on lava. Maybe I should be thinking of it that way.
It's just like the amount of assets. Like if you're running around the level, it's just like how many staircases do you have? Like just kind of like looking at that and those type of items. You get really analytical with the items and assets that you have.
Yeah, how has this kind of work changed the way you look at games, even when you're not in the office? Like do you now look at games and are like subconsciously or consciously quantifying like how they're moving or like how their geometry is designed? Like how has that changed the way you play games? When you're not at work?
Well, it definitely ruins games for a certain point.
Yeah.
When you actually come across the bad game, or like I had this a lot in film. Like I spent 4 years in film school before I kind of switched over to 3D. So you're sitting down with your buddies. Everybody goes to the movie theaters, and you're sitting at the movies, and you're just kind of watching stuff like kind of rain down, and you still like my brain starts kicking in and be like, oh, that didn't look right. That started to suck. Why did that suck? Oh, the screen off? Oh, the lighting was off or something like that. Before, games used to be like, oh, I could play games and I don't think about it twice. Now my brain turns on when I don't like something and I start criticizing why it's not working. Oh, the shadows are off. There's triangles there. The UVs are stretched.
Has that changed who you are as a human being? Like, do you now have different hobbies? Do you spend less time playing, or does it really not matter at all?
I hate to tell people I like to read.
Why? That's great.
Alex's favorite question for people on this stream is, what book are you reading right now? So I think that's a valid. Reading is great. Learn to read,
What
kids.
did I just finish up with?
Oh,
See, I ever finished up with some Star Wars novel. They kind of blew up the whole Star Wars fan fiction a little while ago.
Yeah,
About
yeah.
it. Don't tell the Halo people. I read Star Wars.
Okay,
But-
we won't tell Halo, but Ben, you have to promise me something. Yeah. It's just the three of us here. All right.
the
Brian
33
and I,
of us.
when we were kids, both read a bunch of Star Wars Expanded Universe books, and everyone at work makes fun of us, but we have very serious feelings about it. So, good on you.
I mean, Halo actually kind of has the same thing. They I mean, they just haven't blown it up yet. Sort of. They blew
Well,
up a little.
yeah.
bit. They blew it up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Like I've read all the Halo fan books too. The one cool thing about working with 343 is you actually get first access to all the books. So I've been able to read all the books as they come in. The publishing team kind of shares those with us, so it's kind of nice to kind of read it in there. And as the good thing with 343, unlike with Bungie, is they're expanding the universe like exponentially a lot more than what was it Bungie was able to do, because 343 has the muscle behind Microsoft to actually like pump and diversify the asset. That's why we're seeing like Halo Wars 2 and stuff like that out there now.
Yeah.
Saw the mini series too that came out, which is kind of fun. The more they do that, the more expanded the universe gets, the more you can get involved into it, which is really fun.
Yeah. And you want to talk about Microsoft muscle? Like this year, we're expecting to see a new, more powerful console out of Microsoft. And I wonder, as a developer who primarily targets Microsoft platforms, like how does that make you feel about the potential to have more? Well, just more, as far as we know. Like, do you think there's a significant amount more you can do along this path in terms of geometry caching optimization, or is there something else you're more excited to work on in terms of this kind of behind-the-scenes work?
There's one or two things that I'm getting really excited to work on. Can't really mention too much about those.
Sure.
But as far as the geometry caching stuff, yeah, that stuff's just gonna get exponential. Just to seeing the teraflop footage to go through, there's a little bit that takes away when you have to go to 4K. It's not like you got a straight like upgrade to it. So as soon as you all of a sudden you like quadruple the size of the screen space, you're no longer doing 1080p, you're doing 4K. So there's a lot of processes that are just kind of stolen from that. But all the lessons we learned on Xbox One, you'll be able to put into the new Xbox S and then possibly Scorpio down the road. When that technology comes forward, you're able to like expand it. So we wouldn't be able to do like a million pieces in say Xbox 360, but the same technology you can actually reverse engineer and put in 360, and just kind of optimize the stuff that way. So in that sense, it's kind of cool because, especially as people understand more of what that technology is that we did and how easy it is to author it, you'll actually see a lot more people doing it, which is one fun thing about doing the talk. Once everybody knows how to do it, kind of like the photogrammetry thing, it's like, oh, this works, it was used in production, and everybody starts getting their, like, I don't know, their taste for it. They really just want to do it. It's like, oh, photogrammetry, oh, we all want to do that now. But
Yeah,
as soon as hopefully they talk about geometry caching, everybody will be like, oh, it's really easy to do this now. We can use it for anything. It's not just for like simulations. It could be for anything, any transform across the game engine that you could optimize for.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. There's a question in chat I'm going to pull out and throw at you. It's two parts. Justlinger86 wants to know, is the lighting for the levels in Halo 5 pre-baked? And also, for the geometry cache, do you rely solely on real-time lighting and screen space effects to match if it is?
For the the lighting for level. Sorry, let me say that again. For lights baking, there was actually a talk a couple years ago that the 343 guy. My mind's breaking.
No
Mike
pressure.
Mike Bolton. So Mike Bolton actually was the person that did a precursor of the geometry caching pipeline that we were using, but he also did a talk about his light baking system a few years ago. So there is a level of baking that happens. It's just an optimization effect where secondary bounces and kind of tertiary bounces are just baked into the geometry, so you don't have to do real-time calculation of it. There is a lot of dynamic lights in there, but you kind of have to trade off like what you want to see of actual lighting versus what you want to. Nobody really cares about, like that corner that nobody's ever gonna walk into. Just bake the lights. Don't put a live dynamic light there.
Right on. And they wanted to know, maybe you answer this, but for the geometry cache, do you rely solely on real-time lighting and screen space effects? Is that what you're answering right there? Because this is all kind of
a relative. So you can do color baking over on a geometry cache and something like that. It's a little bit more costlier because you're not just doing a static frame that you load up. You would have to do a texture sequence. So in general, especially for the type of effects that we did, they were over so quickly. There was no sense in really doing that. Usually, you blow something up, it falls down, and it's done. It's in a static state at the end. So you're like, hey, but for that course of that motion, sometimes not really worth it. If it's a really, really huge hero element, we'll focus a lot of time on it. But generally not. Generally not since we work.
Sorry, hang on. Oh dear. Okay.
Are they okay there, Brian?
Invisible. He's invisible. Without, if this doesn't spoil your talk, feel free to say I'm giving this at GDC. But were there any pitfalls you can talk about that you ran into while developing the pipeline?
Yes, tons.
Can you tease us with one thing you can give us now, and then the rest at the talk?
Okay, one pitfall is Maya and Houdini have different namespaces. So what we considered a point in Houdini, and you consider a vertex in Maya, those two things have different terms. But what a UV is stored on in Maya is a face vertex, but in Houdini that's called a vertex. So there's a kind of screw up. So when you try to put UVs in the wrong space, and you're trying to go back and forth between the two packages, it's like a common screw up that nobody ever really thinks about. The different lingo between the two different packages. So that kind of screwed us for a little while.
Yeah, and I should say, everyone who's watching, we are not going to dig too deeply into the talk, just because, like I said, we don't want to steal Ben's thunder. And I bet, Ben, have you finished the talk yet? Have you finished prepping it? Are you ready to go? Because you got a month and change.
I'll say that 90% of it's done, but the 10% that'll probably take me for the next 2 months, I still got to work on that. In order to get the talk through the GDC board, you have to actually do a kind of a full prep on it so that they know what you're going to talk about. They don't want you to present an idea and then you go up there with a bunch of cartoon figures and like a couple
Just
tweets up there. Yeah, you need to have a full description that actually proves the stuff that you're doing, that you're not just some crazy person that just wants to talk on stage. So
yeah, and don't feel weird. Like, I know lots of speakers that are up to the night before, like just getting their slides right and working out their timing. But I mention that because when you give the final talk, the GDC folks will record it and it will be available in the GDC Vault. So those who are watching this who want to know what he's going to talk about and can't make it to the show, it will be online eventually, and many of those talks are eventually published for free, so don't worry about it. There's another question in the chat that's a good, a kind of interesting question. In number Q wants to know, Ben, what is the type of destruction effect you've always wanted to work on in games, in film,
in life,
in real life?
In real life, I really want to blow up. Now we have all the National Intelligence Agency all listening to me. That's the one funny thing is the stuff that I do for work, I can't necessarily talk about in public nowadays. Not because it's like Halo and popular. It's like, oh, so if I were to blow up that object over there, how would I destroy it? I'd have to shatter things like that. which is actually not really good to talk about in airports and stuff. But I guess I like art that inspires me and stuff like that. Like, I got 3 art degrees, technically an MFA, 2 BAs, and stuff like that. But I wouldn't call myself a true artist. That's why I kind of like that technical art mashup. I do art, but that's highly technical or something like that. But technically, I'm more of an artist than a technical person.
Right.
When somebody gives me work to get inspired by, that's kind of gives me the go juice to go on. Somebody's like, I want to do this impossible thing. I want to like take a planet, unfold it, dive through it, split it in half, and shatter it. That's the type of thing that kind of inspires me. I'm like, okay, let me solve this problem. I want to fucking destroy the world. Let's do this. Tear it down.
How do you feel about anime? Because I feel like that's a lot of anime.
I have watched anime. I don't.
I am familiar with anime.
Yes. Nah, I like anime. I don't probably watch it as regularly. My wife, it's funny enough, is she's an animator. She doesn't actually watch too much on her spare time, actual animation. So I used to do it a lot more with my college roommates and buddies and stuff like that, and every once in a while I'll flip something on. But I can't really say I dive too much into the anime scene lately. But yeah, that stuff's fun. Just like going AWOL with something, that's really fun.
So I want to ask, you mentioned it can be tricky to talk about some of your projects in certain spaces because they typically involve blowing up buildings, ships, planets, what have you. So when you're working on that kind of stuff, how do you research it? Like, because I've talked to developers who do, like bone-breaking animations in Mortal Kombat or like horrible, gory catacomb levels in Halo. And the research process, finding reference material for that kind of stuff can be really tricky and also intense. So what's your process look like? Like, what are you often looking at to figure out exactly how a planet should shear in half or a ship should blow up?
I guess just in general, when you're trying to find reference or something, the person that's requesting like the asset or something like that, you're trying to figure out as many words from them as possible and kind of be like, oh, so they're an anime person. What type of anime do they like? I'm sure they've probably seen this thing explode, something similar in that anime. So you kind of dive down. Or they, I don't know, a Michael Bay fan. They like to see explosions everywhere. They're not really talking about the actual geometry they're moving. They're actually talking about the pyro, and the flows, stuff like that. Or they kind of talking about Mount Vesuvius or something like that. Like a nice pyroclastic flow coming down the mountain, kind of taking out Pompeii. You kind of have to find those different types of reference. The great thing about YouTube and Google nowadays is you can usually kind of find that. Sometimes you have to kind of have the safe search filter on, or maybe use a private browser.
Yeah.
You don't really want to come across something. So, like, I guess the weirdest thing is, so like say 9/11, the towers came down, very like tragic thing, but there's so much footage of those buildings coming down. It's actually a very common reference point nowadays for looking at an explosion. Something like you say a prayer or something like that every time you see it, but you still look at that, like the leaves and the blowing of the dust, the people running away, how much they're coated in dust and stuff like that. But it's something that was heavily filmed and videographed from multiple angles, so you can kind of get a whole perspective on that.
Right.
That's rough. Like, I recently rewatched some of that. I mean, not to spend too much time on this somewhat dark subject, but I recently rewatched some of that footage and was struck by, I don't know, I was drawn to rewatching it for kind of a personal, I don't know, just trying to remember that it happened and not like let my own memories be fogged by something, by movies that have taken inspiration from it, I guess. But like to constantly expose yourself to that is just it's not easy. Even just one revisit can be like a little hard. I have a brighter comment. After that.
Happier sides. Happy.
Happy. Actually, the follow-up after that grim comment was, I wanted to. So do you sort of like get to know your coworkers' tastes in certain sense? Or are you like sort of trying to figure out how to solve problems by getting to know who your coworkers are?
Yeah, like I guess anybody you work with long enough, you go out to have lunch with them. You become friends with them. Sometimes you like see them after work too. I like to grab a beer with my coworkers when they drink. Some of my coworkers don't drink, respect that, but like you hang out with them, you go have lunch with them otherwise, and you kind of get a sense of their humor and stuff like that. It kind of helps mesh the team together, and also you kind of understand each other a little bit quicker. If you know the type of jokes and stuff that they do, it just kind of makes the day go better.
So before we move on too much farther, I want to circle back and pull another question from the chat, which is from number Q. What is a talk you saw or heard at GDC that either helped and or inspired you?
I guess just the recent ones from last GDC was the Star Wars Battlefront, the photogrammetry one.
Yeah.
That was fun because I did a lot of motion tracking and stuff when I first was in film. We did a lot of motion tracking and stuff like that. So it's actually very similar. The match moving books that you read are actually the forefront books to that talk, and just kind of seeing that explode up so much and just do that type of capturing. Something my dad actually does for work. He's an engineer at General Electric, so they'll actually use that same photogrammetry techniques, but actually on engine parts. They can do it to like a millimeter or something like that, or actually, was it hundredths? Or I don't know what the hundredth meter is. But then there was another one, Art of Destruction. That's real-time destruction. That was last year. I forget. What's it? Can't think of the name right now. That's
cool.
Yeah, whatever.
Art of Destruction.
Art of Destruction. GDC, it was for
Rainbow Six Siege.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So whereas we went and did it kind of baked, they did a lot of their stuff live, and it was kind of cool to see the dichotomy between our work and their work. Like they went and solved the problem differently. I thought their microsecond or their millisecond budgets or microsecond budgets were fucking astronomical. They actually went completely asynchronous, whereas we could do all of our stuff synchronous. But they're doing their stuff live so that you can actually destroy a piece of wall at time, which is really good for that. But overall, the course of their stuff was a little bit expensive also to go that way. Like they had to completely go for the asynchronous render, and they had to solve a whole bunch of different unique problems. All our stuff is all synchronous, but it's not all of it is real time and runtime. So it's kind of a nice level split of the work that we did. So
you mean expensive in terms of performance, not in terms of production time?
Performance. Production time, I think our teams were about the same, so it was kind of nice to compare that. They had one or two more dedicated people for engineering resources than we had. So there's a little bit of a trade-off in like business resources and runtime resources to do it.
Right on.
I actually, something you mentioned real quick is something that you and I were talking about before we got started today. You said your dad does something similar because your dad's an engineer, and you said that you're like we're weirdly doing the same work. You're just not doing the math stuff. How does that sort of feel? I mean, like, what's that like to like talk to your dad about? It's kind of the same thing, but be making it for games and he's making it for planes.
Okay, yeah. So like, my dad and his two brothers are both engineers, and I went to art school. I'm like, fuck engineering. I don't want to do that stuff. But the reality is, especially the simulation stuff that I've been doing recently, all that stuff is the exact same things they're doing right now, except I don't actually have to worry about the physics, the true physics of it, or the actual heat analysis of these different objects. So one of the things my dad does with jet engines, he does heat flow analysis, and he uses different pyro solvers for that. The same scientific formulas and algorithms that we use, but he actually worries about the calculations and the actual proper implementation of it. All I have to worry about is does that little smoke curl and like roll with it. So we can actually talk about some of the similar things, like just dealing with that technology, which is kind of funny because it lets us hang out a little bit more now than we ever were.
Yeah, I'm
probably
sure
for the last 4 or 5 years.
I'm sure they weren't super eager to talk about the weird films you have to watch in film school.
So what I'm hearing is that you don't.
Now like 20 different times.
For me, it was The Conversation with Gene Hackman.
Oh man, I hated that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
The book and stuff was like the conversation on editing wasn't bad, but
yeah. Mazelmat in the chat wants to know what your favorite beer is.
Favorite beer, Asahi in the 1 liter can.
All right, good. Everyone I know who likes beer, and I don't like beer really much at all, is deep into IPAs and those like thick, hoppy, like no goofing around beer. But I like a light Japanese beer.
I'm actually on the same boat. We're light beer. We're light beer people in here.
Well, yeah. I don't know if I would pitch Gamasutra as the light beer of.
Well, I'll take
But-
that back. I don't mind other beers. I like to have diverse beer selection. But when we were in Japan, when I was in school, we were coming down this like really dark alley street one night, and we are like, oh, what's this vending machine? Japan has all these weird different vending machines and stuff like that. We were in one section, what was it? The game section and the tech sector of Tokyo. But anyways, we're walking back home from that area. And then we come across this like really dark vending machine. We're like, what is this thing? I'm like kind of seeing it. It looks like a beer machine, but I don't know. Put in a coin to go pay for it. The machine lights up, and it's all these Asahi cans from like the little tiny ones, like the 6-ounce ones, all the way up to the 1-liter cans. I'm like, this is heaven. I can drink beer and walk in the street. I can't do this back home.
No brown bag or anything. It's great. Well, that is fantastic. I think we talking about Akihabara, the tech sector of Tokyo. Is that where you guys are at? Yeah. I remember when we were there. I didn't see any really great beer machines, but I saw machines emblazoned with what's his face, some famous actor, and they were just like, there are more energy drinks than I had ever seen in my entire life from one company in one machine. And it was great. I slept like 4 hours a day the whole time we were there. So let's talk about, well, someone in chat wants to know what your favorite wine is, which I'm going to ask, but then we're going to cut off all alcohol-related questions because I feel
like the bartender cutting you off at the end of the night.
because I actually think alcohol is often a critical component of game development, but it's kind of not what we want to focus on here.
The programmer just converts coffee and beer into code.
Ben, any favorite wines you want to recommend?
Not particularly, but the great thing about being up in Seattle area, especially near Redmond, there's all the different wine tasting places around here. There's over 75 different wine tasting things less than 5-10 minutes away from us. There's Chateau Saint Martial, which has their like the main vineyard, and all around there's all these tasting books up in Woodinville. If you don't like wine, it is a perfect excuse to go up there and just kind of taste the different wines.
Nice. Yeah, we Bryant is in sort of Southern California, but I'm in the Bay Area, which is rich in wine tasting opportunities, and it's a great option. If you don't have one to recommend, I'm just gonna say, if you want wine, go get a Boda Box, the Nighthawk Black Vintage. It's cheap, dark red wine that you can take camping or on a road trip. Not that you would be drinking while driving, of course, or anywhere else. And it's great. It's good table wine. Okay, so
Back to video games.
right, Brian, how you doing in there? Have you seen any fantastic?
I've seen a lot of great explosions today. Thanks for asking, Alex. I've been at the receiving end of them too. They've killed me a few times. Yeah, I'm just struggling with the age-old Halo question, which is how do I find the gun that will make this hunter problem go away?
Yeah.
Do you play?
Well, take it easy.
Yeah. You play a lot of Halo too, right, Ben?
I get my ass slaughtered by the pro team, if that's what you mean. But
yeah.
The one cool thing about 343 is all the experts we have there. The problem is I am not a Halo expert. I'm probably like novice to mid-level. But when you're at a company with so many like experts in it, you have your producer come down and just kind of slomp you, and you just can't handle it. It's like, okay.
How so I think one interesting thing to springboard off that is Halo is probably one of those games that like gets young people who want to work in the industry. It makes them go, I really love this game. I want to work for the company that makes that game, but you don't necessarily have to like be good. Like it's a thing that's known in the industry, but not necessarily known to people getting is you don't have to be good at or even like a specific kind of game or game to work at the company that makes that game. So like, have you gotten to meet any coworkers who aren't like, you know, sort of who aren't even into first-person shooters at all, who kind of can share that experience?
The cool thing about 343, even films and other things like that, is like you're working on a project. Like with 343, they work on the Halo franchise. So you know they're not going to be making Gears of War. You know they're not going to be doing like Forza. They're just going to be focusing on like Halo. And in order to make a game, you actually have a very diverse people, like a technical staff that you work with, which is really kind of fun because it takes multiple different types of people and different mentalities and artistic senses to build one game. You have graphics engineers, you have community managers, you have effects people, you got producers, you got people with data analysis. They're all very good at what they do, but they all have a diverse selection. So out of the actual people that play Halo, there's the pro team. There's a couple of good modelers and a couple of diverse people that like to play Halo. But the rest of the team kind of like slowly drops off, probably at about half, a little bit less than that. Some people like top down. When Pokemon Go came out, there was a big, huge rush for everybody to play Pokemon Go that summer and just walk around downtown Redmond and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
Jistlinger wants to know, what did you take away from art school that you kind of still bring with you today in your work?
you got to work in teams. Like literally, the first thing that they taught us in like film was they gave you a camera. Small school, New Jersey. We're not working with traditional film and cutting at that point. It's the edge of digital technology. They all give us these little crappy digital cameras for the intro film class. And they're like, first class, go make your own film. As long as you want, do it as best as you can. Everybody comes back the next week and everything is pure crap.
Yeah.
And then the week after that is go work with 2 or 3 other people on a film. And all of a sudden you can see the project immensely improves. And just being able to work with people, especially diverse viewpoints and stuff like that and skill set, all of a sudden a project comes together.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be the one person that's like, has the camera in front of you, filming, acting, directing, writing the screenplay, trying to do the lighting and stuff like that. Same thing with games. It's just a very complex medium to try to do by yourself.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can make probably a cool app and stuff like that. But I enjoy the aspect of working with teams.
Yeah.
Is there a particular filmmaker or film that really influenced your work? Just than you personally?
I like a lot of movies. I don't really have like too much like a favorite wine or a favorite movie in particular. I did grow up seeing Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and all those other films. My mom actually worked at a cable company when I was growing up, so we got a lot of like the free VHSs, like seeing Twister when that first came out, and just kind of working with film equipment. So I don't know.
Yeah. No. How do you think? I mean, what's kind of an advice you could give to the programmer types and the graphics types in the audience? Because I think we just put a talk up on the GDC YouTube channel about how soft skills can help game developers of all backgrounds. What do you think, like, is kind of the advice about teamwork that you think that people who aren't necessarily from like soft skills backgrounds need to know?
Over there in the ocean.
I think you're coming up on it. Here it is. Yeah.
There we go.
Here we go.
That's it. That's you, right?
Yep. This whole section, me and our team.
Nice.
It was Chris Woods. He was our lead. Mike LaFave worked on there. We also had Eric. Oh man, brain stomping. Had a whole diverse team. I think. This is why I put all the people's names on a slide. It's easier to remember it when you're talking at the point. But all the stuff that's destruction, the catwalks, the buildings coming down. Juan Carlos and his vignettes team, so they did the hang time animation, but all the buildings being destroyed. We had effects people doing the like little pyro stuff. The building we're about to jump on, I destroyed the outside of that. Liz Kirby, she actually modeled the inside of it. So,
Whoops.
In a brief answering. Whoa, shit! That ain't good. In a brief answering my own question kind of way, I think one of the important things that Ben just showed us was that when you're doing an interview, giving a shout out to everyone who worked on the stuff we were looking at is a really great practice. As our poor interviewer tries to survive.
Yeah, so I guess going back to the programmer thing, so I design a lot of tools. Like, initially I was hired on to do content, and then I have a knack for building tools out.
Yeah.
But a tool is only as good as the people that use it. If you design and program like a bunch of tools per se, or code, but your code always breaks, you're never there to answer it, you can't help them, and you don't adjust your code, then your code's really not as useful as it could be. It might solve the cure to cancer or something like that, but if nobody knows how to use it, or the interface is bad, then it's not really as good as it could be. So working with Zabir was really cool. The guy that worked on the geocaching for the most part, is we were able to talk back and forth. I could say something to him, he could say something to me, and then we can go back and forth and like fix it in 5-10 minutes. Whereas if you're a programmer in isolation, it's not really going to work out too well for you. I've done a lot of code. People don't understand the code I do because Houdini has like 12 different languages. So latest code I was doing is like Vex expression. I did a bunch of vine growth and stuff like that. Nobody in the studio understands the code I wrote, but as long as the UI is understandable so that anybody could draw like vines across any surface, that's a really cool thing for them to do.
Vines, are you talking about, I'm sorry, this is my ignorant brain here. Are you talking about literal vines, or like is this
No, this is actually a vine tool. So, like, say you go through a organic level in actual trees, and you put vines like hanging off of trees or on rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a tool that designed to do that.
Yeah. Mazelmet would like to know what kind of hardware you need to work with this pipeline.
It depends on the scope and the scale of different things you're doing. As far as simulation, it's very dependent on the type of simulation, the software package that you're going to do. Stuff like that. If you're doing something that can use OpenGL or your graphics card, you'll need a crank-ass graphics card. Most like film studios don't actually have graphics farms, though. Game studios actually have graphics farms, but they're always dedicated to their light setups and different runtime or game engine runs. Or offline build farms have a lot of the graphics things, but for a simulation farm, they usually don't have a graphics card, so you usually go to a CPU-based approach. If you're doing rendering, multiple cores and other things like that are important to use. So.
Brian, you look like you're gonna die.
Nope.
Take it easy.
I'm doing great.
Yep.
I'm doing great right now. I have the high ground, Anakin.
So, Ben, outside of your talk at GDC, is there anything else you're particularly looking forward to? Have you a chance to look over the sessions yet or plan out your schedule?
I haven't been able to look too much. They haven't put the session schedule online yet, so I don't know when my talk's going to be. So it's kind of hard to be like, I want to do this talk, and then have an overlap. But I have a lot of friends down in SF, so I went to grad school down there. So it'll be fun to go catch up with them, go meet up my other friends that have all diversified to different studios. Like after Rhythm and Hughes went bankrupt back in the day, all of a sudden all the hundreds of friends I had at Rhythm and Hughes were now at different studios. So it was like SIGGRAPH or GDCs that I can all meet these people again and like talk to them. So.
Nice. Would you prefer your talk is early in the week or late in the week? Like, which is better from like a prep perspective?
I don't know. It's split because I got to do the two different talks. The Tech Art Bootcamp was probably the first 2 days, and then the Geometry Caching talk will be in like the later 3 days. So no matter how I split it, my week is like 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Like.
Mazelmet has actually kind of a fun question. Do you think this caching technique will become pervasive throughout the industry?
I think so. It's oh God, people are texting me. I think it's one of those things that could be used as the backbone for transforms. The way we used it was focused kind of on only one like skill set, only on like say destroying things. Our team was named Destruction because we were designed to destroy things. What we found out that is good for using soft deformation and using for a wide array of other things. So you could actually use it as the backbone of a particle system. You can use it as other elements of other like your crowd system. It's really just pushing transforms, lots of transforms really quickly. It works on, it's kind of agnostic of whether you're doing AR, VR, you're working on 360 or PlayStation. There's a couple implementations that are like good for Xbox One that were good for our Halo, but like as far as the talk is, we can't really tell you how a Halo engine works. So we have to completely rip it apart already and kind of put it in an agnostic format.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's already been stripped down, so you can just take the crucial elements of how we pack our transforms and stuff like that, and put them in your own engine or your camera or whatever.
So I didn't realize you mentioned Rhythm and Hughes, and that name sounded very familiar to me. That is the well-known visual effects animation studio that works on a bunch of films, including Life of Pi. Did you work on that?
I refused to work on Life of Pi twice. I ended up working on RIPD. I was born on an island, Gloucester, Mass. If you ever seen the movie Perfect Storm, I was born on that island. So I have a real deep love for the ocean, so I didn't want to work on it. If I knew it was going to award an Oscar and stuff like that, maybe I would have like the visual effects award and the cinematography award. Like maybe I would have worked on it back then, but I had a lot of friends that worked on it. Jason Lin, one of my office mates, he actually did the whale splash for Life of Pi.
Yeah.
Nice. So that's really interesting. Why did you not want to work on a film primarily about the ocean if you love the ocean so much?
Because I see it every day growing up.
And you don't want
like
to see
I
it.
wake
like,
up from my house and I have this little view of like the ocean. It's not like we had a waterfront place, but like water surrounds us on 360 sides because we're on an island. So I can see the harbor, and then I can see the Gulf of Maine, and you just get. I have a deep love for it. Like my great grandparents or my grandfathers, they were like fishermen, Coast Guard, and stuff like that. A little bit too personal. Sometimes you want to keep your what you love and your passions separate from what you do for work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the primary struggles that many game makers face, is like trying to balance like the love that got you into this industry with the discipline not to just overindulge and then kind of destroy it in a weird way.
Yeah, it's a business, and business and pleasure should not really mix. Like it's fun to go to your day job and like do the 3D and stuff like that, but when you come home at the end of the day, you want to keep your life separate. It's a healthy balance. You might be able to get like gung-ho, you get into the industry or something like that, and you're working like 12, 14-hour days, but you get burn yourself out in like 2 years easily. You might be able to do it for your first project or the second project, but by the third project, you want to have a girlfriend, you want to hang out with your dog at home or your cats. It's just not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I talked to a lot of game makers that feel the same way, and I imagine it's very similar in the visual effects and animation business. How did you learn that? What kind of how did you learn to manage your work-life balance in a way that's very healthy, or have you yet?
I think I've gotten some balance. One of the things I do is just make my work more efficient, so I don't have to work late. I guess that's one of the reasons I'm more a technical art than just a pure artist. Every day I'm trying to learn. I have a wife. I like to go home and see her. I like to hang out with her and my friends after work. And it's just something that's work is not my end all be all.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Trying not to die. I
Vacations
apologize.
are important. It's okay, man. You got this. All right. So I don't know if you did this, Ben, but folks at GDC sometimes ask for like a flash forward. The idea that you would like do a quick pithy pitch to get people to come to your talk, like say why it's important and why it's fun and interesting. I'll put you on the spot. Like if you had 30 seconds to really just say like why your talk is exciting or interesting or what you hope to accomplish with it, like what would you say?
If you wait a week, I can tell you too. I'm in the process of actually doing out that flash forward video right now.
Sweet.
But
I'm the guy who
I
has
think
to process
the one
this.
thing is I want people to come and kind of see the geometry caching technology, kind of understand what it is, so they can implement it on their own, and just for them to think about the possibilities. Because at face value, even amongst my coworkers, they don't really understand what I fully do and what it's fully capable of. That's one of the kind of cool things about being accepted to GDC. It's kind of validation that a jury of my peers realize, oh, I'm doing something unique and original. Especially the team of people I worked with. Like we spent like 3 years doing this technology. People at work are like, it's useful more for Gears of War than it is for per se Halo, the way the game is designed and how they were authored for like Halo 5. But other people can use that technology and stuff like that, so I want them to kind of come, see it, figure it out, and implement it in their own way.
Yeah,
Nice.
Right on.
The chat also wants to know, how many cats do you have?
I no
Okay.
longer have any cats.
Aw, that's sad.
My parents had the cats, then the fox got to them.
That's rough.
Alex, you say that's rough when it's the dog.
What? No, I mean, I think cats are great, and that sucks.
Yeah, we have outdoor cats, so. Our previous cat, she lived for like 17 years. She was a fighter. She used to beat up her dog and everything. There was no like mouse or rodents in our house or anything, or in the neighborhood. The last cat we had, or last two cats we had, they weren't tough, apparently.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I know when I was growing up, my cat was an outdoor cat, and like he would come back. Eventually, I mean, he lived to be about 15, and he would come back. But like both ears were notched, and he had like clearly seen some stuff.
See some shit.
But I thought I had more respect for him because he had his own life, and he only needed us to feed him and clean his box every once in a while. That was. So I'm a strong believer in outdoor cats. Too bad about the fox, though. Okay, so Ben, I think we have sucked up a full hour of your time. Is there anything else you sort of wanted to touch on about geometry caching in general? I'm afraid a lot of this is above Brian and I's head, but I think it's going to be pretty interesting for folks with a deep passion for this kind of stuff to attend your talk.
I would say just please come to the talk. The biggest thing is, what would you be able to do with over 1 million transforms in your game? If you were able to kick out a simulation and just made it rain destruction, like, what would you be able to do? You could put 1 million people walking around. It's the same transforms. It's just used differently. Maybe you have a particle things. Maybe you want to give Krakatoa a run for its money. Like, you want to do this live in the game, you can do this now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'll pause so that we can just start wrapping it up here. But yeah, as we wrap up, I just want to advise people, if you're a developer going to GDC, you can click on the link below, and that will take you to the details for the talk, and later it'll have the time of when the talk is and the day. If you're watching, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. Just so that we can, keep giving you some more great talks. We're going to do more previews of GDC speakers. We have one tomorrow. We usually don't stream on Thursdays, but this was literally the only day they could make it. So we're going to do a stream tomorrow with 2 speakers, giving a very different kind of talk. And yeah, we're going to have some other developer interviews. Sometimes we just play games and chat with the audience on here. It's a lot of fun, so please subscribe to the channel. And Ben, thank you for showing up today. It was a great time. It was great to play Halo again with someone who, worked on it.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet. All right, everyone. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Peace.